Are we live?
It just started.
We are live. Good evening and happy 2021. Welcome to our first book club meeting of 2021. Happy MLK Day. I'm Lisa Harrison and I'm in Atlanta, and I'm joined by my stunningly beautiful co-host, Brenda Gardner.
You are so kind, Lisa.
Carolina. We are so excited tonight because we are having our own ladies' night with New York Times bestseller of over 28 novels, but we know her best as one of the founding Friends and Fiction authors, brightening up our Wednesday nights. She's a native of St. Petersburg, Florida, and earned a bachelor's in journalism from the University of Georgia, go Dogs, after a 14-year career working as a reporter at newspapers, including the Savannah Morning News, the Marietta Journal, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. She left journalism in 1991 to write fiction. It started out with mysteries, but we all know it is no mystery how she has become one of our favorite authors. So please help me in welcoming Mary Kate Andrews.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Brenda. It's great to be with everybody tonight.
We're so excited to have you. And in your honor, Brenda and I have made some cocktails from your book.
Yes, we have.
Nini's Beer Garita.
Excellent choice.
Delicious.
And even though it's a mocktail, it's the Sandbar Sangria, and it's really delicious. It has the strawberries, blueberries, and a peach in there. So I'm very much enjoying that. And we've gone with the theme of the cover. So we're enjoying our cocktails thanks to Mary Kay and the ladies' night.
And
well, let's see.
Yes.
Where our recipes came from. So let's jump right in. Thank you, Lisa. Mary Kay, I just wanted to tell you, your novels, they feature such relatable characters, but they're so well developed and they're beautifully interconnected with each other. We've had some really interesting buzz on the book club page this week regarding all these characters in Ladies' Night: Grace, Ben, Wyatt, Paula, Jamie. But could you just share a quick summary of the book for those who may not be as familiar with the plot? And then after that, we will try to keep spoilers until after 7:30, but these characters just have a mind of themselves, so we're not really sure.
Yeah, I have to think back because this book is 8 or 9 years old, I think, 7 or 8 years old. But yeah, Grace is a lifestyle blogger. And of course, now she's what's called an influencer. And she is living the life she dreamed of. She was an interior designer, and she thinks she's happily married to her husband. And he sort of runs the business side of the business, lining up sponsors and all that kind of thing. And she has a 28-year-old assistant, Jamie, which is really Jamie. And they have built a fancy big house on a golf course and with a pool on Anna Maria Island, Florida, which is a real place. And one night, Grace has been working on her blog and she goes to bed. And she wakes up, I think there's lightning that wakes her up at 2 or 3 in the morning, and her husband is not in bed with her. So she gets out of bed, she goes down, she thinks, well, maybe he's in the kitchen. Sometimes he goes down there and, get something to eat or drink. Then she thinks maybe he's in the screening room, maybe he's watching a movie or watching sports. He's nowhere to be found. So she looks out the back door and she sees that I think she sees a light on in the garage. So she goes out to the garage and opens the door and turns on the light, and her husband pops out of his Audi convertible. I think that's a 80 or 90,000, maybe more. It's a really expensive convertible sports car. And he's not alone. And he's not married. And he's not wearing pants. And he is with her assistant. So stuff happens. She loses her shit. and she goes berserk and she chases Jemay out of the garage. Jemay is naked. And Ben is putting his pants on and he keeps trying to tell her it's not what it looks like. It's not what it looks like. And one thing and another thing happens, and she gets in his sports car and backs it out of the garage and drives it right into the pool. So that's how the book starts. And then, of course, she files for divorce. And since Ben has been running the business, he's basically put everything in his name. And they go to court, and the judge decides that Grace is unhinged and needs to go to divorce recovery therapy. So she basically gets sentenced as part of she can't get the divorce until she completes this divorce recovery group with a therapist. And everyone in there, it turns out, has done something. Everybody in there has a story of something vengeful and outrageous they did in the course of the divorce. But there's only one man in the group, and his wife has cheated on him. And so that's it. The first night he shows up to therapy, everybody in the room is a woman except for him. And he says, "Oh, what is this, ladies' night?" So stuff happens. Slowly we learn the backstories of the other members of the divorce recovery therapy group. And Grace has to reinvent herself. And that's kind of a theme of a lot of my books, of contemporary women coming up against being thrown a curveball and having to reinvent themselves. And I think that's just a sign of our times. It isn't always a cheating husband. Sometimes our careers tank. Sometimes family stuff happens, but we don't have time to sit around and feel sorry for ourselves. So we have to pick ourselves up and reinvent ourselves. And that's what Grace does in Ladies' Night.
And I love the strong female characters you create. They're just awesome, even though they endure a lot of troubles, but they always do well in the end. Well, I'm going to start the advanced questions, Mary Kay, by just saying, I know that you posted earlier about how you came up with some of the ideas for the divorce revenge plot twist, but in case anyone missed it, or in case you'd like to elaborate any more, how did you get your ideas for how people came to be in the divorce group?
Well, as I said on the Facebook page, I'm big on crowdsourcing on my Facebook page. And I said, I just want to know your worst revenge stories. And some of them weren't married. So some of them were just, boyfriend, girlfriend stuff. And some of the things were truly terrifying. I mean, a lot of them, people private messaged me because the things they did, even they knew were outrageous. And so some of the things I got there, and I'll tell you one of the stories, I got one of the women in the group. She's very shy and really does not want to tell the rest of the group. We know what she did, but we don't know what drove her to do what she did. And that story came to me from an old hometown classmate. My husband and I are high school sweethearts, and we were at our high school reunion, and one of our classmates I hadn't seen since graduation. And I knew through friends of friends that she'd gone through a really rough divorce. And so a group of women, we were in our hotel room. The guys were out fishing or doing guy things, playing golf. And somebody said, you should ask, we'll call her Joni. You should ask Joni about her divorce story. And I said, and I said, well, Joni, do you want to talk about it? She said, yes. And I said, well, I'm a writer, right? And she said, I know, you can use this. And she proceeded to tell me that her husband, they'd been married for many years, over 25, I think. They had 2 sons, and they'd had some rough patches, but her sons at one point, one of her sons just couldn't couldn't sleep. And she said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I think you and Daddy are getting a divorce." And she said, "Honey, I promise you, we will never do that." Word she lived to regret. So life went on. Her boys were in college, and she knew things weren't going well with her husband. He was getting ready to go on a business trip. And something told her that she should figure out what he was up to. He was acting suspicious. She went out to Radio Shack and got a program to put on his laptop computer, and it was keystroke spyware. So every time he typed on his computer email, she could see what he was doing. She could see whatever sites he was visiting. And what she'd learned was that every town he went to, he was going online to arrange for escorts. And then while he was gone, and she was seeing every time, and he was writing her a Dear John letter, Dear Joni letter about why she was a terrible wife and he was going to dump her. So while he was on this business trip, she had another home that they owned together, an rental property. She hired a moving van. She took all of his stuff and took it over to the other house and changed the locks. And that story, oh, and by the way, later on, she found out that he had given her a sexually transmitted disease from being with all these women. So, and I said to her, she said, "Just make it so people don't know it's me." And I said, "Okay." And after I wrote the book, and that story is in there, a version of it, I sent her a copy of the book, and she said, "I was hyperventilating. I was so nervous when I read it." But she said, "You did justice to my story." And then one other woman, a friend of mine, a dear longtime friend, told me a very similar story. She'd gotten an STD from her husband, and both of these women had to end up having hysterectomies because of the STDs that they got. So that's a terrible story. Most of the stories were funny, but that story really and I knew that story would go to one particular character, and she was so damaged by what he had done to her.
Oh my goodness. Well, definitely relatable stories, and it turns out real life stories in a lot of cases.
Yeah, like the car story, that I had the idea to put the car in the pool. And when I started writing the book, my editor kept saying, I was like 4 or 5 chapters in, and my editor called me up and said, "Would you please just put the car in the pool?"
Well, it was spectacular.
It was epic. I was sold from that point on. I don't think I put the book down once I got to that one.
I know. In fact, that was going to be a question, because 2 of our book club members, Allison Wayman and Anissa Armstrong, had both said, "How did the pool scene happen? And is it inspired by real life?"
I don't know. I don't know about. There's another scene, the crazy gal who spray paints
yes,
the other woman's house with "he's married." Somebody on Facebook emailed me and said, "It didn't happen to me, but I'll never forget. I was in my car at a 4-way intersection, and I looked at the car right in front of me coming my way, and it was like a shiny white Cadillac or something, and spray painted on the hood of that car was 'he's married.'"
Oh, wow. My goodness. Well, here's an interesting one. I think an interesting question for you, because on that topic, Diana Kuhn McGoldrick asked, and this is a little bit lengthy, but it's a great question. Ben is so infuriating in this book. Did you find yourself in marathon writing through his more anger-inducing moments so you could work through the rise in blood pressure? So you could get through the insanity, or could you put down the pen and step away, returning to it later without carrying the emotions?
Well, the problem with Ben was I didn't want to make him so Snidely Whiplash. You want your characters to be three-dimensional, and there has to be a little bit of good in every person, even if it's just the tiniest drop. So yes, Ben was very anger inducing. But I had known other friends who'd had, people say, wow, you must really hate men. No, I've been married to my high school sweetheart for 44 years. And, but, I'm at the age, I think we're all at an age, unless you're 12, where we've had friends who've been betrayed, and we have gone along on those midnight rides. We have gotten in a car with our girlfriend at 2 a.m. to drive around looking for the husband's car. And we have, cyber stalked the other woman, to see who she is and what she's doing. And so, I saw somebody posted that this book was hard for them to take because of all the stuff that was happening to these women. But these women all figured out a way to come out ahead. And I think that's the story. That's the heart of this book, is that there's hope and there's a new day. And I had so many women tell me, yes, bad things happen, but I got over it. And I'll never forget, I was in a bookstore, and the owner, her husband had been in the business with her for many years, and he died, and he'd been gone about 3 or 4 years. And she said, it was so hard. I wanted to lock myself up in the house and never come out again. I thought I'd never get over it. And she said, somebody made me go to my high school reunion, and I reunited with a guy I went to high school with. And we started seeing each other, and now we're living together. And she said, and the sex is fabulous.
See, there's hope,
Yeah,
that was one of the things I love the most about it, because each one of those women went through something so horrific, and Wyatt too, not just the women, Wyatt
sure,
as well. But it showed that no matter what happens, you can still pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and there's hope for a new life, a new chapter.
That's right.
And that's what they did, and I loved it. I absolutely loved this book.
Oh, I did too. And the characters all went through something different, and their personalities were different, so they handled it differently. And that's just the other amazing thing about this book. It's just, and it was so much fun. I'm gonna shift gears a little bit, because we had another question from Lynn Dolby Osmond, and she says, Mary Kay, where do you come up with some of these hilarious names? Stackpole, Suchita, and lest we forget, not Jamie, but French, Jamie. Love you in all your books. They always make me want to go renovate and redecorate.
Well, I try out names, and names are important to me. I knew that Grace would be Grace because the name of her blog was Grace Notes.
Which was fabulous.
And Wyatt, I think I posted on the book club page today. Wyatt, usually I name my dogs after a character. Like, we have a very elderly English setter, Wheezy, named after the Wheezy in Savannah Blue. And then we have the younger English setter, Riley, and Riley is named after the character in The Weekenders. But I actually named Wyatt in the book after our good old boy. He's gone now, but we had a wonderful English setter, Wyatt, and so Wyatt's name was a tribute to that. But I read obituaries every day, so I'm always on the lookout for great name and obituaries, and Jamie just kind of came to me. I just knew she'd have a fancy name.
Yes, that is just fabulous.
I cracked up. I just kept thinking,
she
probably shops at Target, instead of Target.
I love it. I love it.
Hey, I shop at Target now. Come on.
I do too.
I would more if it were more near me, but yes, indeed. And she turned out to be more the villain than Ben, as you said, three-dimensional characters.
Yeah.
he was influenced a lot by her. Well, I have a great question from Francine Katz, and she wants to know, Mary Kay, how you're always so upbeat with such a quick sense of humor.
I think it's probably in my DNA. I come from a long line of funny people, and serious is hard for me, but funny comes naturally. And I've just one of these people who always manages to find something funny in the darkest moments. And that's my family, I have to say. It's just a family, it's a family quirk.
That must make for great family reunions,
Oh
though.
my God, it makes for some epic ones. You never know what somebody is going to say or do.
I'll bet so. I'm sure you missed that during this time, but
Yes.
Lisa, do we have any questions from the chat?
I do. I have two questions here that I wanted to ask. The first one is from Lori Crittenden, and she said, since you stayed at Anna Maria while writing this book, she was wondering if you had another stay in Cedar Key when you wrote Beach Town.
I
Because
did.
you definitely captured the Cedar Key vibe so well in that book.
I did, and it was at the same time of year, actually. I had never been to Cedar Key, and so when I was writing Beach Town, I started. I knew it was going to be set somewhere in Florida. I thought it might be in Alabama, but I thought it would be on the Florida West Coast because that's my coast. And I started. I drove over to, I don't know, Panama City Beach, and I went down the Panhandle looking for the beach town that they would make this movie in. And I had heard about Cedar Key, but I had never been there. And so when I got to Cedar Key, I thought this is the place, and rented a tiny little motel room in a fisherman's motel. That's a big fishing town. And it turns out, of course, for beach town, there's not really a beach in Cedar Key. So, but yeah, I did. I spent maybe a week, 2 different times in Cedar Key doing research and working on the book. And then I did some research for it in my hometown of St. Pete. The Coliseum, the gambling casino in Beach Town, is inspired by there's an old timey casino in Gulfport, Florida. And so it was inspired by that.
Okay. We've got another question from Jennifer Smith. She said she finished the book 2 days ago and absolutely loved it. She wants to know, when you finish a book, do you ever visualize later what is happening in the lives of the main characters, such as Wyatt and Grace, if there's not a sequel? Or are you so busy with your next project that you don't get the chance to?
Yeah, usually, unfortunately, I'm down the road with my next project. I write a book a year. And so I have to sort of wall off those characters and try not to think about them too much, even though they were very endearing to me. I've written, there are 4 books in the Savannah series: Savannah Blues, Savannah Breeze, Blue Christmas, and Christmas Bliss. And those characters, I didn't think I'd write a second book in that, but that just kind of happened. So far, I've been able to leave those characters behind, although the protagonist of Sunset Beach, she works for her father's, he's a personal injury lawyer, and she becomes, at the end of the book, she becomes his investigator. And I've thought about doing a sequel to Sunset Beach. We'll see about it, but yeah, I think really what happened is, I have handed in summer 2021's book. It's called The Newcomer, and I am working on summer 22 right now. So I really, you sort of have to say, I loved you people. Now you stay in this room because I have to go on down the road.
I love it. And now we're dredging everything up.
We can all keep our fingers crossed for a Sunset Beach sequel. That would be
That's right.
amazing.
But you know what? That brings up an interesting question. A book a year is a quick pace. I mean, you don't really have any downtime, I don't guess.
Not much. Usually what happens is you hand the book in, then you do revisions, and then sometimes you do revisions of the revisions, and then you do copy edits and start planning the promotion of the book, and then you get I just finished right after Christmas the what's called first pass pages. So I actually get the typeset pages as they will appear in the finished book. And that's my last opportunity to make any kind of changes to the book. And I just finished those January 3rd, I think. So now
Wow.
it's on to summer 22.
Well, that's the funny thing. You're still editing one book while you're in the midst of another book, and another book is about to come out. That's just an incredible pace.
Well, I don't, if I'm used to it, I've been doing this, 2021 is my 30th anniversary of writing fiction. So it's my
We'll have
job.
to
It's my
plan
job.
an anniversary.
Yeah, it's my job. And I'm like everybody else. I do my job. I whine and moan about it, but I'm so blessed to have this incredible opportunity to do what I love to do, that I've dreamt about doing since I was a little girl, make a very nice living at it. And if, as long as readers want my stories, I'll just keep plugging away.
Well, I think you're safe there. We have people clamoring for more sequels to other books.
What are they asking for?
Let's see. I've got to change screen.
We've got one comment that I thought was funny that says, "Why, oh why is Stackpole a gator? Poor UF."
Well, because I'm a bulldog. He had to be a gator.
I just thought that was so funny.
That is funny.
It's my book, and I get to champion my team.
I'm with you.
The book takes place in Florida, and so it's very believable that he would have been a gator.
That's a great comment, though. That's hilarious. Lisa, did you have another question or okay?
Yes, Emily Graves wants to know if there's any other authors in your family.
My granddaughter Molly loves to write. She's 11 and she is a voracious reader. And we have talked about writing a book together. Maybe someday we will do that, but she loves to write stories. My son is an outdoorsman, so he's not going to be an author. And my daughter is an office manager and involved in a lot of things with their children's lives. So, but she's a really good writer, and she does a lot of she helps me a lot with marketing and social media.
Oh, fabulous. So
Very cool.
our money's on Molly.
We'll see. She's got lots of irons in the fire.
Sounds like a good start, though.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of comments that say, yes, please, Sunset Beach sequel. We need a Sunset Beach sequel. And then some people said Ladies Night sequel.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see what happens. Mostly, I want to give my readers a happy ending. I have an unspoken contract with my readers that my characters will go through some stuff, but we don't always get a happy ending in real life. But I think from my readers want a Mary Kay Andrews book, and they want me to give a happy ending to those characters. And I put them through so much.
But as a reader, I do appreciate that they're going to be stronger and come out better in the end. So thank you for that. I'm sorry, Lisa, did you have another question, or should I?
You can go on with yours.
Okay.
We still have people talking about sequels for Sunset Beach.
Okay, well, that's
So that's
okay, because
very popular.
I'm gonna
You've
pose
got
a
it.
question to Mary Kate and our readers out there watching.
Okay.
Out of the divorce therapy group, out of Cameron, Suzanne, or Ashley, which character did you relate to the most?
Oh gosh.
And so we'll hopefully get some good responses from
I don't know.
readers fresh
It's
on the theme.
truth. So tell you, I was in Grace's head mostly. And so that's really hard for me to figure out. Probably not Ashley.
Probably not. But Cameron had so much, just, I don't know, chutzpah. She had so much
I definitely related to
daring.
Cameron. I felt like she was me. I was like, that's exactly what I would do. Oh, YouTube, here we go. Doot, doot, doot.
Okay, anyone watching, take note. Do not make Lisa angry. She will venture to YouTube. I'm just kidding.
You know, at first I thought revenge was the theme of this book, but I'm not a big believer in revenge, really. I'm a believer in redemption. I'm a believer in the redemptive qualities of forgiveness. But sometimes along the way, you've got to get in a lick.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because this is sort of a follow-up to your sort of redemption comment. You know, Grace renovates the little beach house.
Yes.
And so I guess my question is, why was it so important for her to renovate the house, and how did it parallel the renovation in her life?
Well, you know, I had to figure out how she reinvents herself. And I didn't know how she was going to do that. She wasn't going to get that house back, and she didn't actually want that house back. I think for her, that house had been spoiled. And so when I was on Anna Maria working on that book, I would go walking every morning. And one day I was walking past a house. I rented a little tiny beach cottage. It was so cute. And I was walking past a house, and an older man was dragging furniture out to the curb. And I mean, he dragged tables and sofas. And I actually ran home, got my car, drove over there, and somehow threw a giant table in the back of my car, which I took home and gave to my girlfriend. But when I saw that, I thought, okay, this could happen to Grace. She could see, you know, a house, this older man dragging stuff out to the curb, and something could come over her, that this house has potential. And in the process of fixing that house up, she fixes herself up, and she discovers that she doesn't need and she never really wanted a big giant house anyway. That was her ex. But that was one of those stories where if I hadn't been walking that day, I wouldn't have discovered, oh, this is what Grace could do.
Now, just out of curiosity, when you have those moments, is it like a bell going off, or does it kind of evolve?
No, it usually.
You knew right away. Okay.
Yeah, it was like, you know, my writing ritual, I'm a very ritualistic person. Maybe it's because I'm a Catholic. My writing ritual, especially when I'm in Florida in the winter at the beach, is I give myself a word quota. 2,000 words a day is a pretty decent quota. And so I would work until I got my quota in, and then I would take a glass of wine and I would walk down. The Gulf was only half a block from the place I was staying. So I would walk down there and I would sit on a bench and watch the sunset and drink my wine and kind of, I won't say meditate, but kind of let the day's anxiety kind of flow. And I was sitting on a bench one day and I saw this elderly man walking by with a metal detector. And I was trying to figure out a scene for the end of the book. And when I saw that man with the metal detector, I thought, okay, I know where this will work. And I've had that happen so many times when I'm working on books. It's I never know if the scene found me or if I found the scene. But and I try to go to the places where I set my books. So like Cedar Key, I went there, rented a motel room, and the when I was checking in, I said to the manager, this little old lady, and I said, and do you have Wi-Fi? Thinking, of course they have Wi-Fi. Everyone has Wi-Fi. And she said, honey, we don't even have call waiting. That ends up in the book.
That's right, it does. Oh, I love it. Oh,
Nice and southern.
oh, I know, right? It's just so, just the tone is just so perfect. Well, I'm gonna shift. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was a journalist, as we mentioned earlier, and
Mhm.
part of being a good reporter is really listening carefully to the way people speak. And because you have to be accurate, I would really listen really hard and write down exactly the way people said things. And I think that gave me a good ear for dialogue. And writing dialogue is my favorite thing to do. Eventually they have to stop talking and do stuff though.
Like, drive into a pool.
Drive into a
That was just so spectacular. Can't say it enough. Anyway, Lisa, do you have anything else from the chat that you want to bring up?
Yes.
Okay.
Kelly Benfit wants to know, do you write longhand or do you use a computer?
Both. I usually start drafting. I'm looking around to see if I've got one of my notebooks here. I usually start drafting longhand. I used to use yellow legal pads. And then about 3 or 4 books ago, I switched over to black and white composition books. So usually I plot longhand in my notebook. And then when I've gotten maybe even not a whole chapter, but then when I sort of get my motor running, then I switch over to my laptop. And it's interesting with the book I just turned in, The Newcomers, which will be out in May. That book, I bet I wrote 75% of that book in bed. And although I started plotting in my composition book, the other ladies in Friends and Fiction and I had a 7 a.m. Date to write. We would do these writing sprints. And so I was like the sheriff. I would text everybody up, everybody get going. How many words are you going to write? And this is the first time I've largely drafted right into my laptop instead of noodling around in my notebooks. Lots of times, the thing about a notebook is I'm a really fast typist because I was a reporter. Things about writing around, longhand, you could scratch it out, draw circles around it, doodle, and it's there. And it seems like for many years, it seemed like setting it in type made it too concrete and too changeable. But for whatever reason, maybe COVID, I don't know, I changed my methods.
Wow, that's really interesting because of the impact it had.
Yeah.
On the way that you wrote. That's one of the most interesting things is the advent of the writing sprint.
Well, and, the other thing is, this is the first time in my career I ever turned in a book. I turned in this book like 6 weeks early. I always miss deadline, and I'm talking about. I think for the Weekenders, I blew my deadline by 5 months. My publisher was ripping her hair out. She was so anxious.
Oh, that's right, because the book you're working on now is your 2022. Okay.
But the book, the Newcomer that I handed in, I finished it in November, actually. No, I finished it in October. Anyway, there wasn't anything else to do. So every morning I would put my laptop beside my bed. When I woke up in the morning, I would grab my laptop. I don't drink coffee. I drink Diet Coke, which I know is repulsive. But I would get a Diet Coke. Yeah. all the other ladies are getting their coffee, and I'm like, yeah, I just got to go pop a Diet Coke. I would
feel
crawl
ya.
I would crawl back in bed, and I would write for at least 2 hours before the day attacked me. And that's how that ritual, again with the rituals, that ritual um, helped me get the book done for me in record time.
Awesome. Well, that's
That's so
wonderful.
cool.
I know, it's very cool. Well, speaking of rituals, we have kind of a thought-provoking question for you tonight. If you had your own ladies' night each week, and you could have 5 people, living or dead, for your ladies' night, who do you think they'd be?
Oh gosh. Well, my daughter Katie,
Aw,
definitely. And I have a group of girlfriends. We've been friends since 7th grade. We
aw,
go we go away together. We go on big birthday trips. We went away. We went to Cozumel for our 50th birthday. For our 60th birthday, we went, no, Cozumel for our 40th. For our 50th, we went on a Caribbean cruise. And for our 60th, we went to California wine country.
Oh, I love it.
aw.
So, I mean, I could ask those ladies, or I could just ask, famous people. How cool would it be to hang out with Michelle Obama?
Oh,
Um, I would like to hang out with Dorothy Parker. She's dead, but I would like to hang out with Agatha Christie.
hmm.
I
Nice.
watched the documentary on Masterpiece Theater last night about Agatha Christie. I would like to hang out with, oh gosh, I'm running out of names. But let's see.
That's
Oh,
okay.
I'd like to hang out with Bette Midler and Cher. Okay,
Ooh,
That'd be fun.
that would be fun.
that's an interesting group, Mary Kay. We sprang that question on you, I know. But
It's a good one though. I love it.
Lisa, what
Yeah.
about you? Who to put someone else on the spot for a change?
Okay. 5 people, dead or alive. Okay. I would have to say Prince. I'm a huge Prince fan, so he would definitely be he'd be the male at my ladies' night. And then I would probably say Oprah,
Oh, good.
J.K. Rowling. I'm a
Oh,
huge Harry Potter nerd.
Um,
Kristen Bell, because in my head she's my best friend anyway. So, and is that 4?
yeah, I think so.
mhm.
And I'd have to piggyback with Mary Kay and say Michelle Obama. She could tell me how to get my arms looking so good.
Oh my God.
She could give us
I
arm
know Mark
lessons.
would be fun to hang out with. She could cook for us.
Oh, good point.
I know.
Yeah, that's a really tough question. I'm not
What
sure.
about you, Brenda?
Yeah, that would just be really hard because you think living or dead, it could be such a wide range of people. The people that immediately sprang to my mind were kind of an odd mix. I thought Ruth Bader Ginsburg
Oh yeah.
would be very interesting. Florence Nightingale, I think, would be incredibly
Oh,
interesting
yeah.
right now. I'm a skating fan, so I would like to hang out with Dorothy Hamill for a while.
Aw.
Oh, cool.
And I'm going to throw in a male just for good measure with Bruce Springsteen. How about that?
That's excellent.
Yes.
I think that's only 4, so I'll have to pick a wild card later.
You never know who that would be.
That's
And
right.
readers, tell us your 5 in the chat. We'd be interested. to
Oh
know.
yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, maybe we can forward those on.
I love that one. I do have another question, or actually a couple of things I wanted to share. Sharon says she drinks Mountain Dew in the morning. And then we have a couple of people that say Diet Coke is better than coffee, and you're not alone. They drink Diet Coke in the morning too, so you're not by yourself there.
When you order
And-
it in New York in a restaurant, the waitresses look at you like you're a Martian or something.
And I think Barbara Wojcik brings up a good point, and this is my fault for missing this, so this might be your wild card. She says, if we could only have one man in our ladies' night, I'm inviting Matthew McConaughey.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I have a couple of pretend boyfriends. And Paul Rudd, I think, is it goes back and forth between Paul Rudd and Colin Firth.
I love Colin Firth.
I do too. So yeah, Paul Rudd, and then Colin Firth too. I used to have lunch every at least once a week with a bunch of other reporters. And I don't know how we got on this topic, but one time somebody said something about, well, my wife told me if I could have a fantasy freebie, it would be blah, blah. And I said, what do you mean a fantasy freebie? And he said, well, my wife told me that if I was ever going to have an affair, she would give me one freebie. I said, well, I am never going to tell my husband that.
like a hall pass.
Yeah, a hall pass. Yeah, a hall pass.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my goodness.
C. Clark says she would like to hang out with the Fab Five.
Oh, that's really
Aw.
nice. We'd like to hang out with her too.
Yes. So we have a couple of questions,
Good.
but they kind of go together. Lynn wants to know, are there any movie prospects for any of your books?
I wish, I'm open to it. So if you know anybody in Hollywood, for instance, if you know Reese Witherspoon,
Matthew McConaughey, call him up.
give me a call.
I've been working on him.
Yeah. My job is to write the best book I can. And I have an agent he's in charge of doing that kind of stuff. So, hope springs eternal. I could buy some really good junk if I sold the movie right. So
Absolutely. All right.
And then kind of a second part to that question, if Ladies Night was going to be a movie, who would you cast as Wyatt and Grace?
Oh gosh, I haven't thought about that in so long. Let's see, for Grace. Well, I did watch Nicole Kidman in The Undoing, and she was pretty spectacular in
Oh,
that.
I loved The Undoing. It was great.
That was a nail biter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I know, Jason Bateman for Wyatt.
He would be good, Wyatt.
Yes,
oh,
he
I love
would.
that.
Yes,
That would
he
be good.
would. Excellent.
And we also have a lot of Bo fans in the chat. They love Bo and thought he had a great personality. I thought he was so cute.
See, that's the one I would like to know what happens to Bo. If you had a,
Right.
Yeah.
because I've been curious about Bo. Well, I can't believe it. We have a few minutes left. I can't believe the hour is passing so quickly, but we don't want to do our closing before we give you a chance, Mary Kay, to talk about your upcoming novel, The Newcomer. Tell us a little bit about it.
The Newcomer will be out May 4th, and Letty Carnahan arrives at a mom and pop motel. She pulls in right before dawn, and she's exhausted. She's been driving all night. She has a 4-year-old little girl in the back seat, and it's not her daughter. And she has fled a pretty violent thing in New York City. And she leaves, just throws some stuff in a bag and grabs this little girl named Maya. And she's on the run. And she ends up at a motel called the Murmuring Surf in Treasure Island, Florida, which is a real town on the Florida West Coast near where I grew up in St. Pete. And she falls asleep. She's terrified and exhausted. She falls asleep and she hears a knocking on the window of her car. and it's a cop. And he says, ma'am, ma'am. And so that's a little bit of the story. Letty.
Ooh,
You left us hanging.
I'll
cliffhanger.
tell you that Letty is in a really fleeing for her life and for Maya's life too. And she takes up residence in this motel with a lot of senior citizen snowbirds who are regulars at the motel. They're very suspicious of her because she's much younger and she's got this little girl and they want to know what she's doing. And there's a little bit of hostility because she's not one of the regulars. She's a newcomer. And so she has to, she's on the lam, and she's, I'll just tell you, her sister, who is Maya's mother, has been murdered. And so that's kind of what she's running from. But there's mystery and there's romance and there's some funny stuff, I hope.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Oh, well, that sounds really exciting. I can't wait for May when it hits the bookstores.
Me too.
Fabulous.
I'm hoping,
excited.
I'm hoping maybe we'll do a little, I don't know if there'll be a book tour or not, but there will certainly be lots of friends in fiction chatter about it. All
Yes.
5 of us have books coming out. Patty Henry's comes out in March. Christy is April. I'm May. Mary Alice is the week after me in May. And then Kristen is July, I think.
Mhm.
So it's
We're
Yes.
excited.
yeah, we're all busy.
We are very excited. We're going to have the lineup
Yeah.
in publication order, I think. But
Good.
yeah, we're going to be looking forward to hosting y'all, talking about your new books too. So I'm very excited. Well, Mary Kay, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have some
my pleasure.
announcements, but I wanted to give you a chance to say something before we do our little wind up here.
Well, thank you all so much for coming and listening and talking about books. And it's, in this time when it's scary and there's a shadow over the country, I think books are a great refuge for so many of us. And so I'm really flattered and honored that people want to talk about my book. Ladies' Night is one of my favorites. And I hope that hope everybody will have a good, calm week and that we'll have a better 2021. My husband and I are getting our vaccines tomorrow, so I'm really excited about that.
Yay.
So glad for
luck.
you and your husband. Best
Thank
of
you.
luck with that.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to make a few announcements here before we wind up. Special thanks again to Mary Kay for sharing her time with us. We were so excited to read Ladies' Night, and everybody just thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's our first book club event of the year. So yay, 2021. So be sure to tune in this Wednesday night on the main Friends in Fiction page when the authors welcome Nancy Johnson, author of The Kindest Lie, Sarah Penner, author of The Lost Apothecary, and Pamela Terry, author of The Sweet Taste of Muscadines. The bookstore this week, the indie bookstore, is Gramercy Books, a locally owned neighborhood bookstore in Bexley, Ohio. They're featuring all of the Friends in Fiction authors, plus the debut authors featured on the show this week at 10% off. No discount code required. So we hope to see you all Wednesday night. And then our next book discussion will be February 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern, where we'll talk about The Winemaker's Wife with Kristen Harmel. And a little secret, Patty Callahan Henry is going to be popping in to preview her much anticipated Surviving Savannah.
That's great.
Lisa, do you have anything to add for our announcements?
I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, especially you, Mary Kay. It has been so much fun chatting with you. It's just been electric. Everyone's been so excited about tonight. So we're just so thankful you took the time with us. This was such a great book to start off the year. And then I'd like to end with a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. since it is MLK Day. The time is always right to do what is right. So let's all love each other and do what's right and happy reading. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you. Good night, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
Mary
Bye.
Kay.
Bye, Mary Kay. And welcome to our after show.
Yes, we hope we have an after show.
We're still
If
live
we're still
and
on,
we're
I think
still
we're still on.
chatting. Wasn't she awesome? Oh,
She
I
was.
love
It's
her
just
so much.
always, it's just always so much fun. You know, she brings so much heart to her books, and that's, I guess, one of the reasons I like them so much. And as she said, her characters go through so much, but in the end, you know, they're going to be stronger for it at the end.
Yeah. I could relate. I've never been married, but I was in a relationship where my partner, or not my partner, I don't know what I'm saying. He was a cheater. He was a
Not
cheater.
a Suchita, but a cheetah.
He was a Suchita. He was a Suchita. And so I could definitely relate with those feelings, the insecurity that comes along with it. What have I done? What did they do? Should I do this? Do I follow? And it's like, you get to a point where you're just like, girlfriend, if you have to go through all that, it's not for you, you know? And just to see the progression, but I really loved Cameron and she was great.
I
in
did
this
too.
book.
Now, I don't necessarily think that I am the Cameron.
Oh, come on.
I'm probably the, let's see,
You want to put him
Suzanne.
dancing on YouTube? I'm like the social media person. So it's
But
like,
yeah, I could totally, yeah, I figured that was coming. But there were just so many interesting things about the book. And as we mentioned before Mary Kay left us, Bo was just such a cool little boy. And you know, even though he's a fictional boy, you still worry.
yes.
You know? You still worry about him.
He was a
So-
great character, just a great kid. And despite everything he went through with his mother, who, you know, she did some things to him when she called him bad names. I thought, oh, I couldn't stand her. You know, there was a couple of people in this book that brought up a lot of anger while you're reading it because you just hated them so much. But Bo just was such a great kid and he was so accepting of Grace. I thought he was a great character. I'd like to hear more about him too.
I know. And one thing we didn't discuss with Mary Kay, but how Wyatt's, I guess, soon to be ex-wife did some really kind of terrible things and then just kind of wanted him to, oh, yeah, I'm back. Woohoo! Everybody celebrate. And we didn't get to that part of it. And again, like Mary Kay wrote this book a while back. So, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
impressed that she could recap it the way she did. But, you know, most of us just read it. So we're just kind of like rooting for all the various characters.
It's fresh in our mind. Time went by so fast. We had so much more we could discuss with her.
I know
know.
it really did. And I was, how about that description as a cliffhanger for the newcomer?
Oh, I know.
I was kind of going,
I know. I felt myself wanting to lean in, and I'm like, oh, I have to.
I know. Well, I do that. And it's probably a little distracting, but sorry about that.
I can't
Everybody.
wait for the newcomer. That
I
is going
know.
to be fantastic.
All of the new books coming up this year are just going to be really, you know, exciting. And I'm very excited to have. I've heard so much about The Winemaker's Wife, so I'm going to read it for next month, and that we're going to have the bonus with Patty and Surviving Savannah.
Yeah.
That's going to be a great one too. So
We have a great lineup this year, and we have some for the end of the year too, but we're waiting to announce September, October, November, and December.
yes, but they are already in the works. Oh, and Lisa, do you want to mention our secret Valentine?
Oh, yeah. So for those of you who have not signed up yet, we are doing a secret Valentine, which is like Secret Santa on Valentine's Day. You can find the link on the book club page. It'll take you to Elfster, where you sign up and you can add things to your wish list. We are going to have an informal chat on Monday, January 25th. And that is the last day that you can RSVP for the Secret Valentine. And then on Tuesday, January 26th, we'll draw names and you'll be emailed who your Secret Valentine is. It's a $15 price limit.
Mhm.
So it'll be a lot of fun. We have about 23 people signed up so far, so it's going to be a good one. It'll be
Looking
fun.
forward to it. And if you participate, you can do one gift to your Secret Valentine. You can send several smaller treasures,
Yeah,
anything, and you'll have
cards.
yes, and there'll be a wish list for those folks if you need any ideas. So we're really excited about bringing that next month.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Lots of fun. Well, this has been a great evening. We had our five people we'd have dinner with. Did you figure out your fifth?
Oh, I did, and
Is it
I
Matthew
know,
McConaughey?
No, Helen Keller. Someone mentioned Helen Keller in the
Oh,
chat,
yes.
and I'm like, yeah, because I've always been fascinated by that. So I think that would be.
I love her. There's a Helen Keller museum in Alabama that I want to go to.
Did not know that. That's
I
something
haven't
to look
been.
into.
I wanted to go so bad, but there is one there. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Helen Keller as well. So that's a good one.
So tomorrow might be different, but that's what today's list is. Did you think of anything else?
Nope, I think we're good. I think this was such
Okay.
a great evening. Thank you to everyone that's still hanging out with us in the chat. We see you guys.
Yes,
And we've
thanks so
got some
much.
comments.
We were
So thank you. We'll
experimenting
go
with the
back
little.
in and respond.
Yeah, we were experimenting with the little after chat. So, if you like it, we'll try to keep doing it. And I hope everyone has a safe and fabulous week. I know it's going to be a
Yes.
kind of a nerve-wracking week, but be
We'll
safe.
get through it.
Yeah, we'll get through it. And happy 2021.
Yes. Take care. Stay safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.